It started with a laugh, though calling it that feels generous. It was more like a slurred chuckle soaked in overpriced wine and bad judgment. We were in one of those trendy, low-lit spots where conversations blend into background jazz and flickering candles. But all I could hear was her loud, unfiltered, leaning too far over the table with her fourth glass in hand. "You want to know something funny?" She slurred, her mouth curling into a twisted half-smile that never quite reached her eyes. I already knew whatever was coming next wasn't going to be funny. She tilted her head back, eyes scanning the ceiling like she was trying to remember the punchline to some cruel joke. Then she looked at me. Not glanced, looked. And what I saw in her eyes wasn't love. Wasn't care. It was empty. Cold. "I was never really attracted to you." Just like that. Like a switch flipped. The words hit the table harder than any wine glass ever could. The background noise of clinking silverware and muted laughter faded to static. Even my own drink suddenly tasted sour. "What?" I managed, keeping my voice even. She shrugged like it was no big deal. Like she hadn't just burned down a decade of my life in 5 words. "I mean, I love you, I do. But not like that. Never did, honestly. Isn't that weird?" She laughed again, almost amused, and shook her head like she was sharing some harmless memory. I stared at her. The woman I married. The one I thought I knew better than anyone. And in that moment, I realized she didn't even see what she'd done. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. She swirled what little wine was left in her glass, humming softly to the music. Like she hadn't just told me our entire relationship was built on settling. I didn't feel rage. Not even heartbreak. What I felt was clarity. Maybe it was the alcohol talking, or maybe she'd just gotten too tired to keep up the lie. Either way, I believed her. And oddly, a part of me, maybe the part that had been quietly dying inside for a while, felt something like relief. Like I'd finally been handed the missing puzzle piece to months of feeling like a ghost in my own home. I barely spoke the rest of the meal. She didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't care. She kept rambling about some show, about her day, about repainting the living room. Planning our future while I was mentally sifting through the ashes of our past. When we got home, she staggered in, kicked off her heels with a groan. "Ugh, too much wine," she muttered dramatically. I didn't say a word. She turned to me, eyes glazed and unfocused. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Come on, it's not that deep. You're a good guy, she hiccuped. "I just had to be honest." I nodded. Not because I agreed, but because, for the first time, I truly got it. "I need to lie down," she mumbled, stumbling into the bedroom. She passed out fast, out cold in seconds. Oblivious. Breathing steady. No clue that everything had changed. I stood there for a long time, just watching her. I had given everything, time, love, effort, to build something I thought was real. Turns out it was just a one-sided deal. A slow compromise stretched thin until it finally snapped. And maybe the real tragedy wasn't what she said. Maybe it was how long I let myself believe something that was never mutual. I breathed in, calm, resolved. There would be no fight. No last words. No desperate attempt to make her understand what she never valued. By morning, I'd be gone. No letter. No goodbye. Just silence. The kind of silence that says everything. I moved through the house like I was never there to begin with. It was 4:12 in the morning. The kind of hour when the world still feels asleep, but the edges of the sky are just starting to betray the night. The air outside was cool, calm. A different kind of quiet. The kind I needed. She was still asleep when I stood in the doorway watching her. Not with anger. Not even sadness. Just a strange kind of clarity. A truth that had been creeping in for years but only now stood fully exposed. I had poured myself into this marriage, my time, my energy, my heart. But in the end, I was just convenient. A default setting. A life she settled into, not one she ever chose. And I wasn't going to be that anymore. I walked into the closet and grabbed a suitcase, unzipping it slow enough to avoid even the smallest sound. I couldn't afford to wake her. Not tonight. Not like this. Whatever words she might try to say if she woke wouldn't change anything now. I packed light. 3 shirts. 1 pair of jeans. Some emergency cash. My laptop. Passport. My old watch. That was all I needed. I left my wedding ring behind, placing it on the edge of the dresser right on top of a grocery list she'd written earlier that week. Somehow that felt poetic. Like our marriage had become just another errand. Another thing to get through. Then came the phone. I sat on the bed, screen glowing in the dark. One photo stared back at me, us years ago, smiling like we had it all figured out. Maybe we did, or maybe I was just too hopeful to see it was built on nothing. A few taps later, everything was gone. Factory reset. No contacts. No texts. No digital trace of the life I was leaving behind. I set it next to the ring and stood up, rolling my shoulders to shake off the moment. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. This was release. I moved through the house like a shadow. The hallway was lined with pictures, birthdays, beach trips, holidays we'd staged smiles for. I didn't stop. Didn't linger. In the kitchen, I set my keys on the counter. Quiet. Final. I wasn't coming back. I thought about writing something. A note. Maybe just one line. You never wanted me. Now you won't have to pretend. Or maybe just goodbye. But I didn't. She didn't deserve the closure. Let her wake to silence. Let her feel the space I used to fill and wonder just for a second if she'd finally pushed it too far. I stepped outside, suitcase trailing behind me. The air felt different now, cleaner, somehow. Sharper. I climbed into the car, gripped the wheel, and backed out of the driveway. The house behind me looked like a tomb full of things, but dead all the same. I didn't look back. The city ahead was still glowing from the night, endless in its possibilities. I had no plan. No map. Just the certainty that anything was better than where I'd been. The GPS blinked to life, waiting. After a few seconds, I typed in a random coastal town a few hundred miles south. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere new. By the time she opened her eyes, I'd be nothing but absence. And this time, silence would speak louder than any goodbye ever could. She was still in bed when the first threads of sunlight pushed through the cracks in the curtains. Groggy and hungover, she shifted beneath the covers, her head pounding from last night's wine. The room was dim, wrapped in that early morning hush, but something felt off. Not just quiet. Empty. She reached out, hands searching instinctively for the space beside her. Her fingers met cool sheets. No warmth. No me. It took a few seconds for it to register. She sat up slowly, blinking hard, rubbing her eyes as if that would clear the fog in her memory. Flashes came back, the restaurant, the wine, her laughing too loud, talking too much. Me sitting quietly, absorbing every word like a gut punch. And then, nothing. Her hand moved to the nightstand, looking for her phone. But mine was the first thing she saw. The ring. It sat there cold and hollow right next to the phone I'd wiped clean before I left. No messages. No history. No missed calls. Just a blank screen on a blank slate. And that's when the panic began, small at first, like a tight knot in her stomach, but spreading fast. She swung her legs over the edge of the bed, unsteady, the wine still messing with her balance. She stumbled through the hallway, calling out half-heartedly, like maybe I was in another room. Like maybe this was all in her head. But the house was still. No footsteps. No kettle boiling. No newspaper rustling. Just the kind of silence that makes your skin itch. She reached the kitchen and froze. My keys were on the counter. Right where I always dropped them after work. Except this time, they weren't coming off the counter again. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling as she scrolled through her texts. Nothing recent. Just an old one from me the day before about picking up takeout. Casual. Normal. The kind of message you send when you don't know it's your last. She hit call. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then she saw the closet door, just barely cracked open. She rushed to it. Inside, half the space was bare, my suitcase gone, laptop missing, only wire hangers where clothes had been. The bathroom told the same story. My toothbrush gone. Dresser drawers half empty. The coat hook near the door missing the jacket I wore more than any other. It wasn't a routine departure. It was deliberate. She sat back down on the bed, staring at the ring. I hadn't thrown it. I hadn't hidden it. I just placed it there. Simple. Quiet. Final. Something new crept into her then. Not regret. Not sadness. Fear. She called my office, trying to steady her voice. Hey, it's me. Is he in? A pause. Oh, didn't he tell you? He resigned. Sent in an email late last night. Effective immediately. What? Her grip tightened. Are you sure? Pretty sure. I figured he told you. She faked a laugh. Yeah, just double-checking. But nothing was fine. Not anymore. Next, she dialed my best friend. Yo, came the groggy voice. Everything good? Have you seen him? She asked, sharper now. A pause. No. Why? No reason. He's just not answering his phone. The silence that followed said more than either of us ever could. She ended the call without explaining. She moved through the kitchen like a ghost, opening and closing drawers as if maybe I'd left a note. A message. A breadcrumb. Something to hold onto. But there was nothing. Just the stillness I left behind. I was gone. She tried to make sense of it. Maybe I just needed a break. Maybe I was upset and blowing off steam. But deep down, she knew better. This wasn't one of those petty arguments you sleep off and laugh about in the morning. No, this was different. This was final. She dropped onto the couch, clutching her phone like it was the last thread tying her to reality. Her eyes stared blankly at the screen, waiting for something that wasn't coming. Then, in the quiet, she whispered it. Just 3 words. He left me. And for the first time, maybe ever, she felt what real loss was. The house felt enormous now. Hollow. Each room echoing with the absence she never imagined would exist. Her gaze landed on the wedding ring I'd left behind. Just a band of metal, but now it looked like a verdict. A silent sentence. A cold, gleaming reminder of everything she had ignored, dismissed, or taken for granted. I wasn't just out for a drive. Not just cooling off at a buddy's place. I had vanished. No trail. No posts. No transactions. Not even a whisper of where I'd gone or when, if I'd be back. And I'd left nothing behind. Not even a reason. She scrolled through her old messages again, rereading every casual "love you" and "be home soon" like they might suddenly change. Like I might somehow reappear if she stared long enough. But it was still just her, alone with the silence I'd left behind. She always believed I'd be there. No matter how far she pushed. Through every fight, every cold shoulder, every night she chose work or sleep or her phone over me, I had stayed. I had kept trying, kept forgiving, kept showing up. But not this time. And now, when she finally wanted me to stay, needed me to, I was nowhere. A sick feeling twisted in her stomach. It had started with one stupid sentence, a slurred joke at dinner. I was never attracted to you. She'd said it like it meant nothing. Like it wouldn't land like a hammer. Maybe she hadn't meant it. Or maybe she had and just never thought it mattered. Never thought I'd leave. But then all the other moments came flooding back, the countless times she brushed me off, rolled her eyes when I tried to connect, chose everything and everyone else over us. I'd loved her in 1,000 quiet ways. She hadn't noticed even once. She dialed her best friend. The one who used to remind her how lucky she was to have me. I think he's gone, she said, her voice cracking. A pause. Gone where? I don't know. He quit his job. His phone's off. He just left. What happened? 2 words. Simple. Devastating. What happened? She tried to answer, but her throat tightened. What could she say? That she'd drunk too much and casually confessed she never desired her husband? That she'd weaponized his love, certain he'd never walk away? That she'd always assumed he'd be there? I don't know, she whispered. Her friend sighed. Maybe you should figure out why he left before you try to find him. Click. She sat there, still and small, the weight of everything finally landing. In the days that followed, she went through the motions. Got dressed. Showed up to work. Smiled when expected. But nothing felt right. Because for the first time she knew this wasn't space. This was over. At work, people started to notice the shift. The fire in her voice dimmed. Her usual quick-witted jabs faded. She wasn't sharp anymore, she was distant. Always checking her phone, waiting for something that never came. Meals went uneaten. Nights passed without sleep. And during those long, hollow hours, she scrolled through old photos of us. Ones she'd probably overlooked before. Pictures from the beginning, me kissing her forehead when she wasn't expecting it, holding her hand in crowded places like I was grounding her to the moment. She used to feel loved like that. And now? She was learning what it meant to feel the absence of it. She tried reaching out to my family. Cold walls. All my sister said was, he's fine. That stung more than 1,000 angry words. Because it meant I wasn't missing, I had made a choice. She tried everything. Emails. Voicemails. A tear-soaked message at 2 a.m. whispering apologies, begging me not to leave her behind. She said she didn't mean it. That she didn't want this. But still silence. The silence wasn't just a reaction anymore. It was a message. Clear. Undeniable. A week after I disappeared, she found herself staring at an empty email window at work. She tried calls. Texts. But this was her last shot. She typed slow, careful, like she finally understood that words cut deeper than she realized. Subject, please. I know I hurt you. I know I took you for granted. I don't even know if you're reading this, but if you are, please just tell me you're okay. I won't ask for more. Her fingers paused. For once, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't beg. She hit send. Then she sat there. Watching. Waiting. The message sat in her sent folder, small, sad, and still. She checked for a reply every hour. Then every 15 minutes. Eventually, she left it open like the screen itself might will me to answer. Days passed. Nothing. She didn't know if I'd seen it. Maybe it landed in spam. Maybe I'd seen her name and deleted it without reading. Maybe that uncertainty was worse than silence. She'd told herself I just needed time, that I'd come back. But the days kept stretching. Reality hardened. She stopped checking my social media. Not because I blocked her. I hadn't. But because seeing my profile untouched, frozen, felt colder than if it were gone completely. Even with friends, things shifted. Conversations slowed. Eyes lingered longer. Nobody said it outright, but she knew what they were thinking. You did this. She wasn't the same. No jokes. No sarcasm. No spark. Or maybe she was finally seeing who she really was underneath it all. Then, at exactly 3:14 a.m., her phone buzzed. One new email. Her breath caught. She fumbled the unlock. Her hands shook. It was from me. No subject line. Just one line in the message body. I'm alive. But I'll never be yours again. That was it. She stared at the words through tear-blurred vision, waiting for them to soften. They didn't. This wasn't an argument. Not something she could fix with sweet talk or promises. This was the end. Not dramatic. Not emotional. Just final. Her hand hovered over the reply button. She could say anything. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. But deep down, she knew none of it mattered. She had always assumed I'd be the one afraid to lose her. Now she finally understood I never needed to be. Somewhere far from that house, I stood barefoot in the sand, watching the first light of morning stretch across the water. The ocean in front of me was endless, open, and new. And for the first time in years, so was my life. I had let go of the guilt, the ache, the version of love that only one of us believed in. And I was free.